And a lot of the departments represented. So here we have Elisa Gambino, the director. We have Dave Lou, executive producer, and Neal Broffman.
Broffman, yes.
That's a cool last name, cinematographer. And as a DP, I'm glad we're sitting next to each other. It feels like home over here. And you are here with the film Every Day After. These are short interviews, but I do want to hear, and for the audience at home, what is your logline? What is the film about?
The film is about a sister whose love and sacrifice make it possible for her younger brother to access the health care that he needs and the health care that's been denied to him because of stigma.
Okay.
And because no one thought, he was maybe worth putting the effort into helping him realize his dream.
Got it. And for pairing up with your collaborators that we have here, what were the most important things in the interview process and getting people on the same page to tell the story?
So Neal and I have been working in global health for a long time.
Okay.
And so global health is really important to us. And so that's why, and there was an alignment of the desire to show the impact, the positive impact that access to healthcare can have.
Wow. And so this was based a lot on the experience that you guys have had within kind of the global health network and things like that. And so when looking at casting and your approaches there, were you working with non-actors or actors? How did you kind of cast? I love hearing these stories.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a documentary.
Okay.
And so obviously documentaries can happen in many different ways,
yes,
including with reenactments and
mm-hmm,
actors. This film is verite.
Okay.
And so we worked with people who were experiencing their life in a very real way, and it's very important that Neal and I come out of news, and so it's really important to us that we never direct.
Yeah.
So you're not, so we just spent a lot of time with the family and observed them.
Wow. Okay. So if we're going to go, I want to talk a little bit about the verite aspect of filmmaking then. So coming from news, you're working with a lot of different camera packages. I know you decided to shoot on the 5D for this project, or the C500, sorry, Mark II, and the Canon Cineprimes. Did you want to have more of a contained camera package for this because you knew you were not invading, but being
mm-hmm,
in people's homes and their lifestyles? What was the decision around the technical components?
Well, I love those Canon cameras.
Yeah.
I had a 300 Mark II and a 500 and the Mark II. It's a beautiful camera, and it's perfect for the type of work that we do because it is small. I use it with an easy rig, and with the lenses, they're just beautiful lenses. And so, working in the very small space that
Yeah.
we were with the family, I was able to, because I had the easy rig on and was able to move around. So a very contained space, and so it was just what I had.
Yeah.
But it's also
It worked.
It works because
Yeah.
I've worked with with the Canon cameras and lenses for years, and it's just kind of how I work.
Familiarity.
Yeah.
With the docu style and the verite style of filmmaking, what were the most important parts of the visual language that you were designing and
mm-hmm,
coming? Because for documentary, I think nowadays there's a standard of filmmaking for documentary, and it keeps getting higher on what you have to reach, and that's tough, especially if you are in people's daily lives and you need to have a smaller package. What were the biggest kind of almost your dogma or your rules that you brought to filmmaking?
Sure. Well, I thought a lot about this film before we went over to the Philippines to shoot it. And I was my father was a still photographer and covered
Cool.
the American Civil Rights Movement.
Wow.
And his work is fairly well known. And as a kid growing up, I was always surrounded by black and white photography,
Right.
and in the darkroom, and so I was really inspired by Eugene Smith's series, A Country Doctor, which he did in 1948 in Colorado, which is one of the first black and white, one of the first still documentary series of
Wow.
images. And so thinking about going to the Philippines, I wanted to sort of recreate that kind of feel. So
Wow.
the film is in black and white.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to, I laid down some rules for myself. I said it's only going to be prime lenses, no zoom lenses, everything's handheld. And I wanted to try to shoot as much of the film at like an f2.8 or 2, because we were in such a close space. It's a really tiny home where they live.
Yeah.
And so I sort of laid those things out for myself and stuck with them.
That's so great. And Elisa, when working with the family, how were you teaching them to work with camera? And I know you're saying not directing, but obviously there's a lot of direction involved in not directing. So what does that look like when kind of adhering to a visual language, but also having to navigate a family that has you in their home?
Right. No, we just walk in and say, act natural.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
If only it was that simple. Yeah.
No. In documentary, you have to build the relationship.
Yeah.
And so we spent time with the family before we ever started filming with them. And sometimes, Indiana, you just luck out.
Yeah.
And in this case, the family just ignored us.
Fantastic.
They really did.
Yeah,
That's
and
great.
I was very close.
Yeah.
Very close.
Very
to that.
close.
I can't wait to see it now. Like, this is what's so exciting about these interviews, is because I'm really like pulling all this away. This is
Awesome.
great.
Yeah, they ignored. They are so busy
Yeah.
with their day-to-day lives and the things that they need to do that they didn't really have much time to pay attention to us. And you see it in the film. They never spiked the camera. They never looked.
That's great.
So.
And how much time did you feel you needed to spend versus how much time you actually spent before getting a camera in there? Or were there times when you had to shut off the camera to be like, maybe we need a reset?
So Jari and Jessa had counseling.
Okay.
And Jessa's the older sister, and she had given us permission to film everything. And that was one instance where Neal and I decided that they needed their space and that the camera didn't have any business being in there for something so deeply personal for them. And Jari at the time was 13, and we made that decision. So there were times when we stepped back.
Mm-hmm.
But every morning when we would show up, they really were happy to see us. And we had conversations like, let us know if it's too much.
Wow.
So it was fine. But documentarians never get to spend as much time as they want.
I bet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet. To really live within the authentic kind of world you're building, but also the one that exists. And Dave, your involvement in the film and your relationship with Elisa, how did that come about? And have you worked a lot in documentary before? What was like the reason you really signed on to this and got involved and things like that?
Sure. So I've made investments in the entertainment space, but had never worked on a documentary,
Oh, wow.
primarily narrative. And I was made aware of the project through Smile Train, the world's largest cleft charity, and I'm a donor of the charity and also chairman of the Philanthropic Advisory Council.
Fantastic.
And so I was made aware of the project, and I really wanted to be involved. I really wanted to help have this film be known, get into festivals, really for two reasons. I'd say on a more pedestrian level, the story really resonated with me because I'm a cleft-affected person.
Wow,
I was
okay.
born with a bilateral cleft lip and palate. In layman's terms, I was born with a massive hole in the center of my face.
Wow.
And what I saw in Jari, who is the boy in the documentary, I saw the beginning of my own story.
Oh.
Jari, in our film, you'll see that he has his first surgery, a cleft lip repair. I actually just had my 12th
Oh my
craniofacial surgery. And so, in many ways, Jari and I bookend the whole journey of a cleft-affected person.
Right.
Jari's the beginning, I'm hopefully towards the end, and that really resonated with me, and I think it's a story that needs to be told. A lot of people in the world have cleft, and a lot of our stories are not told. So first and foremost, at a street level, if you will, I wanted this story to be told. And then at a bird's eye level, because of the work I've been doing in entertainment, one of the things that frankly has angered me is the continuation of negative tropes
Right.
around people with a facial difference.
Right.
In many ways, Hollywood is running out of negative tropes. You can't make fun of women. You can't make fun of people of color because that can get you fired.
Yeah.
But people with a facial difference, and in particular people with cleft, there really is no voice for them.
Right.
And so you continue to see films where the bad guy has a scar, or
Yeah.
even more insidious, the bad guy has a cleft.
Yeah.
And because the films show that, there's almost no desire to put any exposition behind it. It's like, oh, well, the guy's clearly a bad guy because he has a scar. Oh, and the audience nods their head, and these films actually do quite well. And so my hope is that at a bird's eye level, people come out and watch our documentary, and they see that people with scars, people with facial differences, people with clefts are just like regular people like you
Yeah.
and I. And hopefully they appreciate the love that a sister has for her brother, and they realize that, it's just not right that we as an industry on the media side continue to use this as a negative trope.
Yeah.
So that's why I really wanted to be involved with this project.
That's so fantastic. I love that, because not only are you, I always say that there's 3 areas of filmmaking, and that's the technical, practical, and creative. And I feel for this documentary, from what I'm hearing, and I can't wait to see it once again, and I hope everyone who is watching is able to see it. I hope that they can understand that through all of the things that we've talked about, I think your film definitely accomplishes all of them. There's a takeaway that's a larger message that's happening. There are the technical role of what the camera can be in a documentary and how you're shooting it. And then there's also the moments of being human with someone and stepping outside of that box and saying, maybe the camera doesn't need to be there for that, and we can still tell that story. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We can't wait to see it. When is your film screening?
We're in documentary 1 block,
Okay.
and it screens on Sunday at 5 p.m. and it's also on BitPix.
Yes, which is the virtual fest that is a partnership with HollyShorts. It's has all most of the films, I think, or all of the films. I'll have to double check. And you can see, so there's no excuse to not watch this film, because if you're not in Hollywood, if you're not in LA, you can watch it online. Thank you so much. We will tag all of you so that they can find your voice and your pages and get involved with the film. And I hope that we can see it at a lot of other festivals coming up. So thank you so much.
Fantastic. Thanks.
Thanks.
Again.
Awesome.
Thank you.
We'll see you guys later.
Thanks. Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
This has been another episode of Cinematography for Actors podcast. Follow us wherever you listen to your podcasts. We'll be here live from HollyShorts Film Festival through the 20th. And if you're here at the festival, come up to the VIP lounge and say hi.
We're so excited to have a ton of sponsors with us, helping us out to make this show live and possible. And so we'd like to thank Apogee, Film Tools, Roscoe, Lightstone Rentals, Canon, and First Mile Tech. Finally, as a gift to our listeners, all of those listeners, we have partnered with a company, We Make Movies, to offer discounted production services, including access to comprehensive production, insurance, and workers' comp for your next shoot. We're making shooting more accessible with We Make Movies. Visit wemakemovies.org/insurance and use code CFA23 on your intake form for 10% off your quote. Thanks, everyone.
See ya!